thought that. And you won't be the first to die because of it.
Things that people always want to ask me. Well, one of them is how I ever came to write the Sherlock Holmes stories. And the other is about how I came to have psychic experiences and to take so much interest in that question.
Take heed, and beware the more in those dark hours when evil is exalted.
You thought it was going to be easy, didn't you? Didn't you? You won't be the first of your family who thought that. And you won't be the first to die because of it.
There is a concept of the ultimate logical human being, copied by generations of writers for decades. The famous Spock of Star Trek is but one example of man overcoming his emotional frailties to emerge into the cold world of logic. But we must remember that the most popular of these cold-blooded characters is but one element from within the mind of a man who had a fascinating background, committed much of his life in search of the occult, and ended his days mocked by society. Many authors throughout time have stumbled upon the world of the occult and included it within their work. One of these is the author who created the ultimate logical detective, Sherlock Holmes. Born Arthur Ignatius Conan Doyle on the 22nd of May 1859, he was a prolific Scottish author and medical practitioner. He was sent to a Roman Catholic Jesuit preparatory school where he was indoctrinated into the mystical world of the Catholic religion. Following this, he went to Stonyhurst Jesuit College, and by leaving school in 1875, he was declared agnostic, rejecting Christianity outright. Before moving on to university, he was sent to yet another Jesuit school in Austria, known as Stella Matutina, a name meaning morning star, and also used for the Temple of the Golden Dawn, a secret occult society frequented by many of the great and good. This appears to have been a somewhat happier experience, and he particularly enjoyed reading, stating that Edgar Allan Poe's Tales of Mystery and Imagination was a profound influence upon him. Poe was also a great influence on the James Bond author Ian Fleming, who was also schooled in Austria. Importantly, author Harold Bloom described Poe as an American Gnostic due to his mystical and metaphysical leanings. The Jesuit connections on Doyle, however, would later in life lose in parliamentary elections for being a papist conspirator, a Jesuit emissary, and a subverter of the Protestant faith. Somebody, it seems, suspected that there was more to Conan Doyle than met the eye. Interestingly, the Jesuit order gave rise to the infamous secret society called the Illuminati, which was also founded in Austria under Adam Weishaupt less than 100 years before Doyle's time there, and gave Fleming ideas for his evil Smersh and Spectre organisations. The Jesuits themselves have been called the Gestapo of the Catholic Church, with their spidery web across the world, infiltrating all manner of religious, commercial, political and charitable institutions, often taking on a guise that would make them unrecognisable. There is little wonder that Doyle would later predict that the forms of religion will be abandoned, but the essence will be maintained, so that one universal creed will embrace the whole civilised earth. However, from 1876 until 1881, Doyle studied medicine at Edinburgh, and upon achieving his goal, he celebrated by drawing a sketch of himself waving his diploma with the caption, "Licensed to kill." It is thought that this was indeed where Ian Fleming got the title for his later Bond book. Doyle moved on and set up a medical practice, which was largely unsuccessful, and began writing stories in his spare time. The most famous of these are of course the tales of the detective Sherlock Holmes, and within the folds of these and other complex narratives we find elements of the occult that so fascinated Doyle. In fact, the occult references are so strong that his short story collection, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, was actually banned from the Soviet Union in 1929 for their supposed occultism. The forms of the occult influence that seeped into the Doyle novels took a great many shapes. In an early work entitled The Mystery of Clumber, we find a trio of Buddhist monks having returned from the dead, seeking revenge upon an army officer. Every chapter is filled to the brim with manifestations of the paranormal. For example, astral projection, precognition, extrasensory perception, and even matter transmission.
Up and down, back and forward, rattle the cage to wake my mother. From black and white dreams and colorful spells into a different set of rooms where we don't build.
Doyle was playing out his own thoughts and beliefs on the pages of the novels. He was deeply interested in the occult world, in the paranormal and myths. In 1898, he went along to the temple of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a group closely linked with the Theosophical Society and the Rosicrucians, who themselves were linked to the Illuminati of Austria, and groups that also heavily influenced Ian Fleming. However, it is claimed that Conan Doyle found the goings-on to be queer and disagreeable, and so never went again. Strange then that Doyle later made his home at Crowborough, the very home of the Grand Lodge of Rosicrucianism, and that members I have spoken to claim that he was in fact an initiate of the same degree as Madame Blavatsky, Eliphas Levi, and the Beast himself, Aleister Crowley. It seems he was attracted to these societies for his very real interest in the paranormal, and not the bizarre rituals and petty politics that often come with them. That said, at his home in the New Forest known as Bignell House, the postman declined to visit because of the strange goings-on, and the local villagers avoided it because of the spiritualist activities. He did, however, join the Society for Psychical Research and lectured extensively on the subjects of the paranormal and occult. The world of the hidden was to be more than just the realm of fiction for Doyle. He is infamous for his support of the Cottingley fairies, which later proved to be pure fiction themselves. Conan Doyle died in 1930 and was highly influential upon the minds of a great many, including Ian Fleming, as we have seen. They had similar circles of friends, which included Winston Churchill, and they both wrote upon the world of the occult. Like Bond, Sherlock Holmes would have his own nemesis in Professor Moriarty and his happy helper in Dr. Watson, but he would also suffer from the depressions of loneliness, smoke too much, and dabble in his cocaine habit. Once, he even met his perfect feminine principal, or Gnostic Sophia, who was a match for him. But Doyle opened himself up to what he saw as the real world with his beliefs in the paranormal, fairies and psychics, and paid the price of humiliation.
First of your family thought that. You won't be the first to die because of it.